Hello folks, and welcome back to Wonder of Watches. It's a beautiful sunny morning here in Wexford, and I'm heading out to one of my favourite places in County Wexford. It's Curracloe Beach. So I just pulled in to start the video, and I just thought I'd do one of these kind of ad hoc unscripted videos talking today about the watch I'm wearing, which is a vintage Seiko 6309-7040. So we'll hit the road. I'll tell you a little bit about where we're going. It's Curracloe. This is the beach that is very close to Wexford town, probably about 7 miles out of Wexford town, but actually the beach stretches entirely up the coast, the east coast of Wexford, the east coast of Ireland, right up as far as Wicklow. So it's about 30, maybe 40 miles of white sandy coastline. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. It's actually famous because it's where Tom Hanks and his crew came in, I think 95, 96, to film the opening 20-minute scene to Saving Private Ryan, that very visceral depiction of the Normandy landings on Omaha Beach. He picked Curracloe specifically because I believe it looks almost identical to Omaha Beach, and I'm sure the Irish government might have given him a few tax incentives as well, so all good. Okay, so let's talk about the 6309. There was a couple of different iterations, but certainly nothing like the dial variations and colours we see nowadays. But just in terms of references, this one is the 6309-7040. This one has the Suwa dial, which indicates that it was made in the Suwa factory in Japan. Now, the watch was introduced in around 1976 and was in production till around 1988. It's also known as the third diver because in the sequence of Seiko vintage divers, this was third. Clue is in the name. So you had the 62 Mass was number one. That was the very first 150 meter diver that Seiko produced. Then you had the 6105, the Willard, and then you had the 6309, which was an evolution of the cushion case that was introduced with the Willard, and they integrated the crown guards into the case at 4 o'clock rather than having protrude like they did on the Willard. The indices also changed from square indices to round indices. Now I still prefer the 6105, but I tell you what, this watch is quickly becoming one of my favorite pieces in my collection, and it's really grown in my affections. So let's get out and about a bit. We'll take some pictures here of Curracloe and the Raven Forest, which is adjacent to Curracloe, and there's about a 10-kilometer walk here. I used to do a lot of jogging out here. Don't do any jogging anymore. I've got a lot of post-COVID pounds to lose, but there is a 10k loop here if you were so inclined, and if you walk to the end of the Raven Forest, you can look right across over to Wexford town. So it really is that close to the town here. Absolutely beautiful beach. We moved to Wexford from Waterford when I was about 10 years old. And one of the things that really grabbed me about this beach was the water here, because you're swimming in the Irish Sea, the channel between Wales and the UK, I guess, and Ireland, and there was a significant rise in temperatures from the waters I was used to swimming on in Waterford, which is right on the south coast. So you're swimming in the Atlantic Ocean, which is significantly colder. So I loved coming here as a kid. Okay, let's get out and about, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, so I'm just here in the Raven Forest now in Curracloe, and it's an absolutely beautiful morning. So the 6309, yeah, it's a vintage diver. You can still pick them up, but I'm not going to advise on buying any kind of vintage watch because the pitfalls are many and varied. As well as that, there's a slew of aftermarket dials produced for this watch. It's almost 50 years old now. They're quite collectible, and there's been a lot of interchanging of bezels, bezel inserts and dials, plus these fake aftermarket dials. Now, this one from the 70s and this one is from 1978. And I know that because the reference number begins 88. So the first one is the year 78, and then the second one is August. So this watch was produced in August 78, and I have a good feeling that it's all original for a start. And this is the one bit of advice that I would give you. If you could pick this one up from a Seiko collector, that might be the way to do it. I found a really good guy in Australia on Instagram, and I bought my 6105 from him too. So he's already navigated the pitfalls, and plus, because he's a connoisseur of the vintage watches, he knows exactly what to look out for. But as I was saying, the late 70s watches, they patina quite specifically, and the loop plots, they turn a tan colour, but the hands patina slightly differently from the loop plots, and they go a kind of a silvery colour. So that's one indication of it being a real dial for a start. The bezel is kind of concave in its nature, so it comes in from the edge and it descends downwards towards the crystal. There are other indicators like the triangle on the bezel. It's actually supposed to come over the lip of the bezel at 12 o'clock or wherever the bezel is. And the other thing, of course, is that there's just clear printing that the Sua logo is period appropriate, and that the water 150 meters resist and the Seiko automatic is clearly printed. Now, you will find all original ones in poor condition, so the trick is to find original, good condition. I would say it'll probably set you back around 500 to 800 euro. But this is a great watch for me, and my very first watch actually was an SRP 777, which is the new iteration of the Turtle, and I loved it. But then as Seiko started, you know, producing iteration after iteration, you got the SRP series, you had Pepsi bezels, black bezels, blue bezels, and then they went again with the King Turtle range with grenade dials and ice dials and ice blue dials, American market, JDM market, etc, etc, etc. I've actually found myself being drawn towards the vintage side of things. The same with the 6105, that's why I bought it. Again, the Willard, tons of different colors, tons of different dial configurations, variations, etc. But the vintage ones, they don't change. Like, take for example this 6309. This was produced from 1976 to 1988, so there's a 13-year span of production there, and all those watches look the same. Yes, there might be different reference numbers as I mentioned earlier, but effectively, aesthetically, they're all the same watch. So I love it for that. And it is a good value if you can get them. Now, I bought this one for about 500 euro from my friend in Australia, and then I got it serviced for a cost of around 270 euro from a brilliant watch guy. And just a massive shout out to Mark Wilkes. At markwilkes.ie is his Instagram handle. If you're in Ireland or in anywhere in the EU, in fact, and you're looking for a watch serviced, I can't recommend Mark highly enough. And he'll try anything. He's extremely resourceful. His attention to detail is second to none, and he has done an amazing job on this. E.g., for example, this was running about, I think it was running about 10 minutes fast per day. The amplitude was very low, and that can happen with vintage watches sometimes, but Mark actually got it running to somewhere between 0 to +2 seconds, which is absolutely phenomenal for a watch that's nearly 50 years old. And so he has done an absolutely outstanding job with it. So that's it. That's the 6309, slowly becoming one of the top watches in my collection, one of my favorites. People know I'm a Seiko guy anyway. So yeah, in a watch world where it's Rolex this, Royal Oak that, Nautilus this, there's still great value to be had out there. And there's watches with tons of character, you know, tons of history, aesthetically beautiful, and will last you 50 years. And this watch fits into all of those categories. I love it. Good luck, folks. See you in the next one. Ben.